Gonna start recording. Okay, so hello everybody, and I will, in the interest of time, since we're, I will start this. We're recorded and posted to the space for this focus group. So today we'll just have a very brief introduction, just a minute or two, and then presentations by Mert and Getachew. So we will, I'm just trying to multitask here and admit people. So the goal of our effort here is to apply the framework, methods, and tools from the previous projects, including WISE and Water Research Foundation projects, that also to provide a platform for collaboration and sharing. We are under the utility management community, and this focus group currently has 3 work groups that we're in the process of still finalizing and forming. If you're interested, please let me know. And also, the ultimate goal is to for people to implement improvements in their organizations. My name is Čelo Vitasović, and I'm with a company called 9D Analytics, which is basically a one-person LLC. And I am grateful for the opportunity to help manage this focus group. And to get right to the interesting stuff, Mert Muftugil has practiced asset management in the water space for 12 years in the private sector. After that, Mert joined Portland Water Bureau in 2019 to work in the asset management branch. His career has focused on teaching and applying both fundamental and advanced asset management concepts in the water and wastewater space, as well as performing gap assessments. Mert is currently the supervising engineer for the Portland Water Bureau's asset management branch and aims to maintain and improve the practical applications of asset management framework for Portland Water Bureau assets. So I will stop sharing and you can start sharing, Mert.
Okay, thank you, Čelo. Good morning, everybody. Well, I guess some of you are from the East, so good afternoon to you. I'm seeing many familiar names. Good to see everybody again.
We don't see your screen yet. We don't see anything.
I haven't shared yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I will. All right, so I think then I'm going to move to the presentation mode as well, by the way, so that it just flows better. All right, so I'm hoping that my entry titles. Oh, wait, this is not the current slide. The current slide. Yeah, I hope you can see this, Čelo.
Yes.
Right.
Go.
All right, and I apologize. Just unexpectedly got a little cold or something, so my voice is a little messed up. But I think it's at least understandable. So today, I just wanted to cover some of the methodologies and tools that we followed, especially when we initially joined the UAM/WISE initiative, and wanted to focus primarily on our work with the business process workflows. I understand some of you, because I'm seeing familiar names, some of you were involved at those early stages, but not everybody, possibly. So this may be a quick and brief sort of update on sort of what we did, how we did it, and what we liked, and so forth about the process. Okay, so I just would like to start just noting prior to my joining the Portland Water Bureau Asset Management team, there was a WASA benchmarking exercise, Water Services Association of Australia, which is one of those global benchmarking standards.
Okay.
And we went through that exercise, and along with other participating utilities, and then we noticed that when you look at our sort of summarized high-level results, we were right sort of at and around the median of participating peer utilities. You see our ratings in the top of the bars, basically around this 60th percent mark. And you'll see that the median ratings of the participating utilities are in these like little circles. So we were like, we were average compared with global peers during that survey. One thing that I heard and I read in the report was that while the Portland Water Bureau did a lot of things right, there was a gap in sort of documenting what was being done and what was not and what was not being done, of course, on the other side of that. So with that said, when the UAIM/WISE initiative came to our attention and focus on business process workflows, we wanted to participate and use this as an opportunity to sort of close this identified gap in our asset management benchmarking. Like I said, we wanted to close the gaps on our documentation through focus on business process workflows development, sort of like how are we doing and what are we doing and so forth. What got us really motivated initially was the water sector value model. I believe like at the time, the 2019 was the version 1.6. There may be a more recent version actually right now that I'm not aware of, but it basically goes through and identifies like the full, like whole water life cycle and what kind of, processes are involved for a given utility to complete that water cycle, basically. There is about 180 unique processes identified in that, and they're organized around these 45 themes. So what I call themes, they call it like levels in the sector value model, but just for the sake of argument, I'm just calling them themes. But just as some examples, just 4 of those 45 were sort of create assets, maintain assets. So that's your sort of asset management space. But it also has other things such as develop customer relations program, develop employee communications program, which is still included in a strategic asset management plan, but of course developed by the respective departments in a utility. So that's sort of just to give you a few idea of, and a reminder to some of you who participated initially as to like what those themes and process workflows are. Anyway, so with that said, we joined in 2019 to move towards documentation. So the process was, and there's just a lot of stuff on this slide, but I'll just sort of walk you through it. But basically at that time, PWB, Portland Water Bureau, and other participating utilities went through that long list of like 180 specific, utility functions, and then picked 1 or 2 that were of interest to them, and that they would like to lead the development of those workflows, basically with support from other participating utilities. So we went ahead and identified the ones that we were interested in. And then we also worked with, again, the utility partners that were participating to identify who else is interested in working with us specific to the workflow that we selected. And then just to sort of highlight something I liked about the process, even though we are obviously so many different utilities participating from all around the nation, the project standardized across a specific business process flow framework. So the BPMN 2.0. So some of you will recall this, the business process modeling notation. where, at least, whenever we developed something, at least that it was consistent, and then, across different teams, and then we could copy and paste. And then over time, ideally, basically borrow from each other as these materials are developed, as the program went on. Yeah, I think I will probably just, not necessarily read anything else on the slide, but Cello will, I'm sure, can provide these to you all. So when it comes to then developing the workflow, we decided to go with the enterprise risk management, which is one of the 180 business processes for a typical utility, water or wastewater. And we chose it not because it was easy, because it's not necessarily easy, but it was timely, because at that time we also had just completed a strategic plan update that actually looked at the developing strategies across the identified risks to the organization. So it was actually a very appropriate extension of that work. So here at the bottom, what you see here is the individual, like the specific process, if you're interested in like knowing how that went. But the leading utilities for a specific process went and looked internally and spoke with the internal parties, and then developed an initial as is, or a current state, if you will, about how this is done. In this case, the enterprise risk management is done. Other utilities worked on other initiatives, other workflows. And then there was basically a bunch of meetings over the web to meet with the interested utilities to workshop that as is, so that it is sufficiently generic as a starting point, because again, the idea is to go from an as is to a desired future state with feedback from others to come up with a process that may be applicable to a high number of utilities for a given process workflow. And we want that to be relatively generic, so that other people don't get confused with the terminology used in a specific utility and so forth. Idea that, and we supplemented this with some in-person workshops, and then with feedback, started to develop a to-be or a future or a desired state version of how this should look like. Again, we supplemented it with some workshops where we met to then a little in parallel start developing a list of challenges to move from the current to the desired state, and then identify the challenges and start thinking about how we can manage that transition, that change. And I don't go into it in this presentation, but in later phases of the UAIM/WISE work, there was this big focus on change management aspects, and there are others who worked more on those than I have, and maybe in the future, maybe we can hear from them in a summary fashion. That would be something I'd be interested in. Anyway, so that was sort of our process there. And just to give you an idea of what things look like, I pasted the current or as is, or the existing business process workflow that we ended up proceeding after incorporating feedback from others to this slide. And by the way, I don't expect you to be able to read everything here. What I was hoping you would get is the level of complexity we were able to achieve with, again, input from others as our starting point, if you will, to our journey to this desired state. Just know that, there are 4 swim lanes. 2 of them really only have like the one process, and most of the work sits within one swim lane with some support from like another one. And what you see here are all these, yellow like comments that, other utilities helped make it, better with, and we captured those here in this format. So this was our starting point for, our as is starting point for the future / to be. There were earlier versions of this, of course, but this is that transition point to the future desired state. And then here, again, same logic. I don't expect you to read it, but this is the to-be future desired state we ended up with. And you can already tell that significant improvements were made. First of all, there's a whole new swim lane with a significant number of steps added to it, like second one from the bottom, that actually tries to capture capture these additional things that utilities are interested in doing as part of this process. By the way, if you're in the program, I believe you have access to all of these, so you could download them and zoom in and do whatever else that you need to do to make them legible. But the idea is that it kind of increased, the level of complexity increased significantly after we were done. And I'll mention it again, but we didn't have like these super long meetings outside of these in-person workshops, which we had two of at stage. And outside of those, we really had these, weekly or bi-weekly check-ins. I would say, they were about 1 to 2 hours, depending on how much we wanted to achieve. So yeah, it took us maybe like a good chunk of the year. At the same time, we didn't spend a lot of time and resources to make this transition. Oftentimes, resource availability is an issue. Time availability is an issue. So it didn't really hit our sort of availability too hard. I want to just highlight that. In a nutshell, obviously, you couldn't read the workflows, but in summary, they include information on who is involved, what specific decisions need to be made, and who makes those decisions, what data we need to be able to make those decisions and move from one process to another. It lists the activities and their order, of course. And then we also can identify resources. So it's a starting point to say, our planning group is going to work on this activity. That's a good start. But the tools also allow you to then identify, we estimate this to take, 8 hours, or we estimate this specific task to take 12 hours, and it needs to be done by 2 people. And the idea there then is that you could add those up at the end, and you could just say something like, okay, now for us to enterprise resource planning every year, when we identify the parties involved, the positions involved, and how many hours of work we expect them to do, then you could say something like, okay, then it's going to take us, 420 hours to go through this process whenever we do this in a given year. So you would maybe do it every 3 years or so forth, with that in mind. And also, we also identify the data needs, where to store the data. So it's kind of like just brings everything together, and then it has that sort of consolidation and knowledge management component that I like. Towards the end, I noticed that there was that list of challenges identified to help us move from the current to this desired state, and then we organize them around a matrix that kind of looks like this as an example. So we can look at things that are at the strategic, tactical, and operational levels. That really flows nicely with the ISO's risk concept, actually. So it was a good fit for this specific item, like a good ready fit for this line item. For those of you who are knowledgeable about that, maybe more than I am. And then those sorts of challenges then also can be further divided across people challenges, process challenges, and technology limitations or challenges. So the idea then was to identify those challenges, see where they fall, so that we could figure out like what we need to target for change. And then it just moved on to the change management aspects. I believe there were a lot of potential tools that were offered or presented or consolidated as part of this work. Again, other people actually have worked much more on those, and they can probably talk to you more about that at a future webinar. But just to give you an example of what kind of challenges specifically came up, I included them here again. We came up with these in one of the in-person workshops, and the idea being, utilities looked at this desired to be state, and then from their respective points of view, where they are in their organization, they said, okay, this is going to be difficult for us, or no, that's okay for us, but this other issue is going to be difficult for us to challenge. Again, just to give an idea of, like basically create this library that other utilities on later as they try to do this transition from current to future. Just a simple example, agreement on the consequence of failure scoring matrix. So those of you who had to go through that exercise, we generally had in the room people from different groups with different priorities and different weighting scores and different interpretations of what a failure is and so forth. Generally takes a little bit of a discussion. So that's just one example that's a potential challenge for some utilities. All right. Excuse me. So I also want to say why we enjoyed participating, so it wasn't sort of a reflection process a little bit after the fact. When we asked ourselves, hey, we did this ourselves, and then we participated in other workflow developments led by others. Did we enjoy this? Would we do this again? And the answer was, yeah, we would do it again because like I said, we did not at the end of the day spend that much time and resources on this. But we started to develop this documentation from this current to future state. Idea is that, of course, it helped us big time with internal communication. Just every time I feel like you gather people from different groups in one room and then focus on a specific topic, there's always something new that comes to light that somebody, even though, they may have worked there together for a while, they may not be aware of. So it's always good to create these positive friction opportunities between groups. So this is one of those. And then, there would have been certain things that were done, but maybe they were overlooked for one reason or another, and they are important. And then they may really, this one person sitting in this one cubicle preparing a report, for example, and when they leave, perhaps there will be a little interruption in that report's preparation because, it wasn't, transitioned out properly or so forth. So it kind of brought some of those issues to light. That also goes with having a better handle on who does what when. And then, of course, we identified this list of improvements to move from the current to the future state. Of course, that's different for each utility. So everybody needs to look at the generic starting point and the future state. And then they need to figure out how much way they need to make in that transition. Through meetings, we had the opportunity to learn significantly from other utilities involved. Getachew presentation after this, for example, goes into business cases, and that, I just find it absolutely great. So we have our own process, but we are still learning about that. And then, it was a good introduction for those of us who are not well versed in the industry change management methods towards the end of those workflow developments. I think that was basically my last slide. So I'll stop there. Happy to take any questions now or later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mert. This was really great. I just want to provide a bit of a just clarification. Some of the business process models that were developed during the Water Research Foundation projects during the 4 years of the UAM were included in Water Research Foundation reports. And some models that were developed by utilities during the WEF program are currently available to those participants. They're not shared broadly. If you'd like to get more information on that, you can contact me. And I added this explanation in the chat line. Any questions for Mert?
Yeah, thank you, Cello, for the clarification. And I hope to be able to resume this work in the near future. I've had some empty seats. Even though I had the positions, I had some empty seats in my team recently. So we really had to prioritize hard on what we want to focus on. But I hope to be able to resume this work as soon as I'm able to.
Thank you, Mert. Thank you, Mert. They put Mert into a management position, which completely shuffled his his focus and expanded it. So thank you very much. Now, our next speaker is Getachew Melsew, and he's the senior manager with the Department of Engineering and Technical Services at DC Water. He's licensed to practice civil engineering in California and Washington, DC, and is a certified program management professional with the Project Management Institute. He has a wide range of consulting, project management, and program management experiences in the US, Africa, and the Middle East, spanning for more than 25 years. His experiences include design of water and wastewater systems, master plan and facility plan preparation, condition assessment of water and sewer assets, asset management, and development of capital improvement programs. So just a quick question for Getachew. Did you want to run this from your local machine, or do you want to just tell me when to click and advance the slide? What is your preference?
You can do that. You can help me.
Okay, okay. I will.
Right.
So you just say click and I will act.
Sure. Thank you. Cello. Good afternoon, everyone. Mert described in brief, but the main aspects of the work that we did under UM and then WISE. My presentation focuses on the business processes and how we bring about change here at DC Water and made the new business process that we developed part of our CIP planning process. That's where I'm going to focus. So if you go to the next slide. Again, yeah. I think the concept of business case is very clear. It is not just at organization level, but in our lives, we always make decisions regarding where to spend, how much to spend, and those type of things. Business case evaluation is a day-to-day decision. We always compare and contrast, and we choose something that brings value to individually us. And if you click the next slide, please. And so to the organization as well, going from gasoline vehicles to electric vehicles or Android to iOS. There is always that conversation that happens at organization enterprise level in terms of what to choose and which one is beneficial to DC Water. Next slide, please. Or click. So how do we do that? So you achieve that by doing a business case evaluation. I think for all of you, this is elementary. So I'm going to go to the next slide. So why business case evaluation here at DC Water? I think these are the 5 imperatives of our strategic plan. So we have to justify the value of our projects and programs that we have in our portfolio to properly allocate resources. And I think that the third bullet is very, very important because always there is the engineering, the finance people, the operations and maintenance people. They have a lot of interests in doing certain things and they have their own preferred ways of handling some of the gaps that we have. So this business case evaluation brings all these people together and agree on which one is the best, which of the options we have bring the best value to DC Water. So it creates some kind of consensus among the various stakeholders in the organization. And also it creates a collaborative environment. The operations, like in our case, operations, engineering, finance, procurement, and even legal, they come together and work as one unit. So from that perspective, it's very important. And because we have a strategic plan, everything we do, we make sure that they are aligned with our strategic plan. So from that perspective, there is a lot of value in doing business case evaluations. Next slide. If you click, this is how we define business case evaluation here at DC Water. And this is a very simplified and short way of defining what it is. But I think all of you would agree that this is a rigorous and informed process to assist in decision making. It's a decision making tool. so that we systematically evaluate potential alternatives to address identified opportunities or needs. I think this definition captures the essence of business case evaluations. Next slide. So we have two types of business cases. You may know that we cannot do business case. Please click. We cannot do business case for all kind of projects. So if you click, Cello. So the first one is the short form. The short form is what you call the project evaluation form. It's a form of business case evaluation. It doesn't check all the boxes that I'm going to discuss, but if you look into this, is a justification of addressing a need, and there are certain things that we consider when we do that, alternative analysis and things like that, but we may not go through, it may not be as rigorous as a business case evaluation is, but it is a way of, or a form of business case evaluation. And we do that for all projects that we have. We have supporting documents, we have templates that we fill in, we have the strategic alignment, we have all other types of things that we consider when we do justify a project. And that's, in my opinion, a form of business case evaluation. Next slide. But the most important one is the long form, which is the standard business case evaluation. There are artifacts that go with it. I'll talk a little bit more about on those artifacts, but there is a criteria we developed because we cannot use for hundreds of projects that we have. We do every year, so there must be a threshold. So we establish a threshold, and based on that threshold, we do the main or the long form business case evaluation for those assets. Next slide. So let me talk about the. I think Mert has discussed it very nicely. That just to give you some background with respect to DC Water, since 2017, DC Water has participated in the Water Research Foundation project, which is this one, the Utility Assessment Improvement Methodology. In short, we call it UM. And this effort was later adopted and managed as an ongoing program by the Water Environmental Federation, and then it changed its name from UM to WISE. I think WISE stands for Water Entrepreneurs for Successful Enterprises. At the beginning, when it was still called UM, there were 4 topics, namely capital project delivery, developing asset management plans, enterprise risk management, and then business case evaluation and prioritization of CIP projects. And DC Water was selected to lead the development of business process model for the BCE and prioritization of CIP projects. And later on, the CIP planning and then the CIP delivery, because they are very interlinked, they were merged to form one topic. To create value and to achieve the organization's goal, if you click, I think there is some pictures, yes. So to create value and achieve organization goals, people interact within the organizational structure to execute a business process. And then you can see that in this gray area where the people, the technology, and the processes in an organization set up, how they are, interrelated. It's just like one cannot exist without another. If you don't have a technology to help you implement the processes, then you will be short-handed. So this is very important from that perspective. If you go to the next one, next slide, please. So this is just a slide prepared by Cello. I like it because it describes how a WISE improvement methodology adds value to the organization. It is this framework that defines the basic elements of value creation. There are people, there are organizations, there are processes, there are technology, change management, performance monitoring, improvement, and all those type of things. There are improvements in, as you can see here, improvement processes are blue boxes, and then the yellow or gold color are the assessment activities. So these assessments are aligned with the value creation elements. And the whole process can be summarized. I think Mert has also mentioned that there is the developing of the as-is process, then the analyzing of that as-is process, and then from there you determine a gap, and then you decide what your process is going to be, which is the to-be process. That identifies the improvements and change that are needed to bring about change and value to an organization. So if you go to the next slide. So that's how if you look at this one, this is just a very this is a CIP business process model. It's a collapsed form. There are 7 stages, as you can see here, and then there are stage gates. So this is what we came up with, the CIP planning prioritization group, and then CIP delivery. We came together and then we've created this one. This is just a collapsed form, as I said, but if you look the whole process, it's a very, very big process. And if you click the next slide, just to give you, like, we are zooming into stage 0 and 1, which is the planning and prioritization aspect of the whole, or phases of the whole process. And as you can see here, there is each activity in this process has a plus sign in it. If you are working on the model, if you click plus sign, it takes you to another business process that basically tells you how the needs identification happens. And then stage 1, the same thing. Each one of them have a plus sign, which means there are business processes for each activity shown here. And then between the 2 activities, there is stage gates, and each stage gates have a criteria, a checklist that the reviewing body will check before a project goes from one phase or one stage to the next stage. And then at the top, you can see the procure service stage. And procurement happens several times in a project life cycle. And that's why we have it separately, independently, because from getting design engineers into contractors and things like that, there could be several procurements that could happen. And that's floating. If you click the next one, please. So this also shows you, we are zooming into seeing the final stages of this process. So next slide, please. So when you look at it, so what the DC Water group, created the stages, the details for stages, stage gate or stage 0 and 1. The stage 0 is identify need, and then stage 1 is prioritize need. So prioritization of projects, and as you can see, it's very difficult to see it here. But as Mert said earlier, if you have access to the OneDrive that Chelo maintains, I think you would be able to see what each box and each activity is all about. But I'll talk a little bit more if you click the next slide on each one of them. So this is stage 0. So this is from identification need to the stage gate for needs identification, which means we have projects, list of projects ready for prioritization. So that's all stage gate 0. If you click the next one, the next one is stage gate 1, which is the prioritization aspect. At the beginning of the prioritization, if you see the red box, it says prioritize CIP projects. And this is an activity in that workflow process. But as I said earlier, if you see a plus sign, it means there is a sub-process that talks about the prioritization, prioritize CIP projects. And then if you are working on a model, when you click it, it takes you there. But in this case, just click the next slide. So this is what the workflow process for prioritizing CIP projects. It looks simple, but the intent of this one is this is just prioritization. So there is a determination if a business case evaluation is required, and once that's decided, then you do conduct business case evaluation. And also the business case evaluation has also a sub process, and that's why you see a plus process. So if you click this one, it takes you to that sub process, and that sub process is, if you click it, it looks like this. So it has several activities, and most of these activities have their own sub process. That's what we are going to do. I know I'm just mindful of the time, but it's just to give you an idea of how how business case evaluation will be developed. If there is a couple of activities that will, you will create a business case for it. And then if each activity has also other activities to get it done, then you need to create a sub business. So that's how the whole model thing, the whole thing is modeled. This is a business case evaluation. As you can see here, after the business case evaluation is decided, there is, in our case, there is a, if a director requests, then we do the business case evaluation. Otherwise, if the project is greater than $2 million, then we need to do business case evaluations. And these are the if then type of sentences that is going to guide whether a project needs a business case evaluation or not. And then once it is that process is done, if you decide to do the business case evaluation, then we have to assign the business case evaluation lead. That lead develops the framework of the business case evaluation, establishes the business case evaluation team, and then goes through the remaining four processes. The first process is developing opportunity and need statement, identifying stakeholders. If you click the next one. So this is a sub process of the business case evaluation process. Can you click, Cello, if you click, go to the next, yeah. Oh, okay, this is just zooming in. Next slide, please. Next slide. So these are the four activities with sub-activities. So we are going with the first one. Click next one. Yeah, so this is developing opportunity, need statement, and identify stakeholders. That is, as I said earlier, for each activity, for anything in the business process, there must be a kicker. There must be a reason to start a process. So how do you start? What do you need to start a business case evaluation? As I said, the first thing is that there is a determination for a business case evaluation. So that's the reason why we need to start the business case evaluation process. But in order to develop opportunity or need statement, what do you need? One is a draft needs statement that justifies in the first place to start the business case evaluation. And then we have a guideline. One of the artifacts is business case evaluation guideline. So that document is required. If you have the two documents, then you can start the business case evaluation. The first activity is conduct training. It's very important because you may have new people coming into that business case evaluation team, and you need to train them so that they know what they are doing. So that's a very important activity. Then the team develops opportunity and need statement, and there is a revision cycle. And then once finalized, then the next step will be identify stakeholders. Once the need statement is finalized, the stakeholders are identified, then you end this process and you go to the next activity, which is a sub-business process. Next slide. Which is developing alternative process. This is a very, very important process. The input for this one is the output of the previous activity or business process, which is opportunity or need statement and list of stakeholders. Always we have the guide with us because it tells us what to do every step of the way. And that's why and then once you have that, the BC team work on the alternatives. And then we have a BC review team composed of managers and directors, and they will review the alternatives because we don't want to go far with each alternative before we have an agreement and approval from our management. And that's why that activity is very important. And once it is refined and everybody is agreed, then we go and finish. We have alternatives. That will be an input into the next activity or sub-process. If you click, Cello. The next one is doing financial and non-monetary analysis. For that, what are the input? List of alternatives and our BCE guideline. Those two, and then start with the financial. We have a tool actually. That's one of artifacts that we have is not only the guide, but we have the tool as also an input. So once you do that, this is just a detailed preferred alternative process. If you click, it's just to show you This is the first phase of the alternative process, and then you go to the next one. So once we have a selection, there is what you call an escalation. If the team doesn't come to an agreement, there is an escalation process. That escalation in our case goes to all the way to the executive vice president, which is our chief operations officer, and he or she will make the final decision. But as much as possible, we'd like to reach a consensus before without the need for escalation. But as a business process, we need to have that. That's why we are having it here. So once we have this, then we go to the report. The tool will generate a report that basically captures the whole process and how a business case evaluation has been evaluated for a need, and then there is a recommended next step as a result. So that's going to define what the new scope of the project is going to be. Next slide. Okay, earlier I was talking about artifacts. I think DC Water has these are the artifacts. The first one is the business case evaluation guide manual. The other one is the tool. We have the tool that's that does the whole evaluation and then spits out a report. We have the business process model, which I just completed reviewing it quickly. And then also, there is also a decision tool that we developed ourselves to help our project managers do the evaluation based on the criteria we have. And based on that, we just, so we use these 4 artifacts in our business case evaluation development. Next slide. So if you click again, I'll come back again. I don't think this is the latest one. Anyways, so the earlier we mentioned about establishing the as-is, deciding on what the to-be is going to be, identifying the gap and developing the to-be process. And then after that is the change management and workforce engagement. One of the things we did is how does this business case evaluation will find its way into our tool cases in our CIP planning process. So one of the things we did is the engagement part. We had a training with our staff and especially engineering staff. We have about 6-hour total training for about 90 employees. And I think most of them came from operation engineering, but there are some who came from finance and other departments as well. So that helps us to introduce the concept, how valuable it is, and it was easier from there on, it was easier to transition it or to introduce it to our CIP system. And that's why this is our CIP project evaluation form. And in the form, you can see clearly that there is a BCE. So at the beginning, when a project is created, we also decide when is the right time to do a BCE. And if a BCE is required, in this case, there is no BCE required. That's why you don't see date to perform BCE. That's kept blank, but the justification and everything was originally done in 2017. So it found its way into our main process. Okay, next slide. So as I said, 90 mostly engineering and operation participated. There were some questions. We use Mentimeter to check if they understand what it is. We prepared some kind of YouTube for them to go and understand what our tool is, what it does, those type of things. So we did a great job at that. So next slide. In summary, doing BCE has a lot of benefits from individual level all the way to enterprise level. It makes justified decisions, and it makes also that everybody is clear. There is no ambiguity. The right people are engaged, and there is a lot of benefit in doing business case evaluation, not just at project level, but at bringing various functional units to come together and work on a particular project. That was good. The other thing is, if you want to go back and check the assumptions, the process, and things like that, it's documented. Anyone can do that. That was also another one. It is an optional step because the project should have at least $2 million to do business case evaluations. And the other thing is, I mean, some of this thing is done by ourselves, by DC Water people. So we use what you call citizen development. Everybody chimes in, and instead of hiring a specialized person, we developed some of the processes ourselves. So this concludes my presentation. There is a case study in the slide deck. You can refer, but you can ask me now or in the future. Thank you very much for your attention.
His email is included, and so if you have questions, you can always reach out to him and ask. I'll give one more chance before we move, just on a couple of more items. Let me see. I don't see any raised hands. I don't see any questions. Okay. Well, thank you, Getachew. Give me just a second. So just very quickly, what are our planned activities coming up? In a couple of weeks, actually, at the 2024 Utility Management Conference, we have a session, technical session we were able to get, session 29. This is the list of speakers who will be there. They're all, they're all talking about different things happening in utilities. And we're going to plan future meetings for this focus group, but this is like probably in March will be our next meeting like this. This is something that you might be interested in if you're going to Portland, Oregon. This is on February 16, this session, this specific session. And Mark Pauling is here. Mark, you can say something a little bit about your workshop that you're going to be engaged in.
Yeah, thanks, Cello. So I'll be talking about the change aspect of business process improvements at the workshop just prior to it's part of the Utility Management Conference in Portland in a couple of weeks. So if you, I'm going to be talking about, we're looking at how do you apply it to maintenance processes, right? So those are great business processes to look at and evaluate, because maintenance of our equipment, of everything that makes treatment systems go is so vital to our work. So there's going to be a number of folks, utilities that are presenting. I'm presenting on the aspects of the WISE program, and in particular, change management. And I'm going to be doing a segment on is your organization ready for the change, right? Because if those of you have been with the WISE program or UAM for a while, we all understand that, and I think the two presenters before this highlighted the fact that you have to manage the people aspect of this, and you have to make sure you're ready to accept the improvements, the changes that you want to make in the process. So I'll be doing that presentation in the afternoon, and we'll be doing a short exercise to do a short self-assessment as part of that session. So if you know anyone who's attending and they're looking for what I think will be a really good workshop, particularly with this maintenance focus, please invite them to join us. And that's on Tuesday. I believe that's the February 13th.
Yes, it is. Thanks, Mark. So just to remind where we are, this focus group was established in September 2023. We're under the utility management community, and the utility management community second vice chair, Brian Persing, is sort of providing a connection to make sure that we're in line with all the other activities going on at utility management community. Zonetta, is there anything you'd like to add or mention?
Yes, just real quick, just to mention that the utility management community is having a meeting on that Thursday. I'm on my phone, so I can't tell you exactly what the time is. I think we're having a speaker. It's about an hour and a half. So it's just an opportunity for each of the focus groups to interact in person. And just look forward to everybody being there. And hopefully if you've got the newsletter, it'll tell you the exact time and location and room number. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Zonetta, we only have 5 minutes. I know there was a lot of stuff thrown at you. We're going to post a recording. I feel that hearing from fellow utilities is always sort of really valuable and exciting for the colleagues and people in our water sector industry. Any final questions and suggestions before we close it up? Okay. In case you have any questions, please go to the WEF WISE focus group website on WEFCOM and look at the forum, contribute to the forum. We can start the discussion. If you're interested in any of these work groups, please let me know. We're in the process of trying to get people together. I know everybody's really busy, but there'll be some exciting things going on. So thank everybody very much. We're going to hopefully see some of you at the Utility Management Conference. If not, all the best until next time. And thanks to our speakers. And we'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you, Cello.
Thank you. Bye.